So once again, we want to welcome you all to our webinar workshop this Thursday morning. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. My name is Brian Griffin, a marketing assistant here at Messer Financial Group. If you're on this webinar, you're already familiar with Messer Financial Group. And in case you don't know, we are an agent-focused FMO. This started with 2 agents and now serving over 20,000 agents across 40 states, and we're still growing. Today, we're going over a tool that I believe can be relevant to your business in today's climate, Office in a Box. This is definitely a unique time in the industry. We want to make sure that you have all the necessary tools to remain successful. MyMFG as a standalone is already a terrific tool for your business, but adding the functionality of Office in a Box gives you options as to how and where you want to do business. We're lucky to have our very own Shelley Medford with us today, and she's going to give us a refresher on this tool. Shelley is Messer Financial's compliance officer with more than a decade in the industry, wife and mother of two, with a passion to help agents navigate through the maze of compliance and regulations in our ever-changing industry. Before we do get started, a few housekeeping rules. We're going to hold all questions until the end of this presentation. If you do have any questions, just type in the box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll get to as many as we can at the conclusion of the presentation. But now, without further delay, Mrs. Shelley Medford. Shelley, are you there?
I am, Brian. Thank you so much for your introduction. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're well on this Thursday. As Brian indicated, this is a interesting time for us all in the industry, but for those of you who are on this webinar, you are familiar with MyMFG and hopefully Office in the Box, or as we like to call it, Connect, so that we can learn more about how to navigate this world telephonically, as well as just some other business management tools that are available to you. I'd like to go ahead and get started, and we're going to move fairly quickly. As Brian indicated, this is a refresher. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask them in the question box, and I will address as many as possible when we have the opportunity. So to get started, as you can see on my screen right now, we are on the dashboard of MyMFG. You have lots of functions and features here that are available to you for the CRM component of this tool, as well as all of your quote and enroll options. Before we jump straight into Connect, I want to just give you a quick note regarding telephonic enrollment, since that's the space that we're all sort of operating in at the moment. If you go to the other tab here and the support and training tab that is available, you'll have the enrollment guides listed here. If you click on this PDF, it will populate a new tab, and you have the ability to download this form. This form will continue to update as we add additional carriers and as the year progresses. But this gives you an idea of who is available to quote, enroll, and who is available for telephonic enrollment, as well as the SOA requirements per carrier. As it stands at the moment, you can see here for telephonic enrollment, we currently have available Aetna Coventry, Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina, HTA, and Humana, with others looking to join relatively soon. So please stay posted there. Just a quick note on the training and support tab. Please utilize this functionality. This tab is very important and tends to get lost in the shuffle, I know, but there are many training videos as well as a posted Connect demo that you can reference at any time. So to jump back into the task at hand, we are going to review Office in the Box, or Connect. So if you have Connect available to you in MyMFG, you're going to click on the Clients tab here, and Connect would be listed under Refer a Client. If you do not have this currently under your Clients tab, it means you are currently not turned on you've not been permissioned for the Connect functionality. You have a few options to get that turned on and permissioned appropriately, which I'll review shortly. But let's jump in right to the functionality here. So once you click on the Connect button, it's going to populate a new tab, which, by the way, in case you were wondering, you need to utilize this in Chrome, in a full version of Chrome. So if you are currently utilizing an Apple product, an iOS, where it is a tablet or a smartphone, it's not going to function correctly in there. You need a full version of Chrome to operate this. So either your Mac computer or your Windows-based products will work seamlessly. So just so you're aware of that. Once you get into the Connect feature here, you're going to see a lot in front of you. You're going to see the MyMFG section here, which gives you details around your office status, whether or not you're offline, available, away. You're going to have a quick little view here of any missed calls, unread voicemails, including, and you'll see some functionality in here labeled, agency. You are the agency as far as the Connect piece is concerned. So you have that available to you. Across the top here, you have listed the dashboard, a quick indicator for text messages, call history, and settings. And we'll review each of these as appropriate. But just to kind of kick us off and get started, I'm going to do a poll for you guys. I want to know how many of you have ever done telephonic enrollment. So you should see this pop up in your webinar tools here in just a moment, and let me know that if you do not. I want to know how many of you are doing telephonic enrollment. This is a going to give you just a second once they close the poll. Are you guys answering? It's quiet in here today. All right, so once you guys are working on that, telephonic enrollment is, in this industry, a bit of a tricky subject. CMS and where they have decided to land on this is a little ambiguous for the most part, and carriers are interpreting that as best they can. Given the current landscape of things, obviously there's some additional measures being taken, some leeways that are being offered, and I know that many of you have been on additional webinars for the carriers to get some guidance as to how they are choosing to operate. With that being said, the way that Connect works with this is pretty seamless. So for all of the carriers that you have the ability to telephonically enroll through MyMFG, it's very simple. It's a very simple process. You can type a contact name or number into this section here. So if I just add a number here, it will either pull the information that you have available, so you can actually see what's happening. So you've got the phone number listed here, and you can go through here and make a phone call directly from this section. Now, what this means is if you're at home and you're working remotely and you want to telephonically enroll, I highly recommend that you do this on a computer. You can access this, as I indicated, via some other more mobile options, such as a Windows-based tablet. But for the purposes of telephonic enrollment, I really recommend doing it this way. You type in a phone number, it would call it directly because this is a VoIP system, so voice over IP. It would call this number, which is mine, so don't memorize my phone number, please. I could answer this, and then you have the option for the record buttons here. So you can mute, start recordings, hold, transfer calls, add calls. There's even a dial pad option here if you prefer the ASMR of that. It even gives you the nice tones if you'd like. But this button is the one that you are the most interested in, which is the record functionality. Once you press this button and it turns red, this is how you know that a call is being recorded. For the purposes of MyMFG and completing telephonic enrollment, the recording of the phone calls is the most important piece. This is both protection for you as the agent as well as protection for the client. You guys know how to complete a telephonic presentation to do it in a way that is compliant and that covers all the bases, right? Every carrier has released guidance on how they expect that to occur. So as long as you're following the guidelines that have been set forth and you are recording your phone calls, you are clear. Now, the nice thing about recording the phone calls here is in your call history, it gives you the details, and as you can see, I've played with this quite a bit. It gives you lots of options and details around each phone call, and this will do it, in perpetuity. So you have the option of going through the calendar, selecting time frames. You can search the call history by name or phone number. So if you're trying to look for specific information, you can find it. You have the option from here directly to text. You can recall. If you had email addresses listed, you could email there. You could add the contact to this system. I wouldn't recommend doing that because all it's going to do is connect to MyMFG. So anything that you're putting into the CRM portion of MyMFG is going to connect here for your purposes of making phone calls. You have date and time analysis, the duration of calls, the status, so whether or not the call was answered or whether it was, hung up or ignored or went to voicemail. And then you have the option of playing the recording. So the recordings are listed here with the green button. If you don't record the phone call, you're going to have an absence of this green button. So please ensure that every time you are making a call through the system that you are recording it for the purposes of this. You can play that recording immediately, or you can actually download that recording if it's ever requested by a carrier, or if you just want to have it on hand in your own system, you have that option available. Again, you can filter by tags. Tags aren't something I would recommend using for now. That's something that if you, as this progresses from a technology standpoint and as the carriers and CMS further adapt technology usage, that may be useful to you in the future. You also have the ability to blacklist phone call or phone numbers, so sort of a do not contact for anyone who indicates that they don't wish to be contacted. If you are recording phone calls and doing telephonic enrollment, I highly recommend that you indicate at the beginning of the call that the call is being recorded so that everyone is aware that they are being recorded. It is against federal law to record someone without their knowledge. So that is call history and a brief kind of introduction and refresher, if you've been on these before, to call recordings. If you go to the dashboard, and I know previously we haven't spent a lot of time going through some of the other features of Office in the Box, but I'd like to spend a little bit more time just giving you an overview of this so that you have a little bit more understanding of all the tools in your arsenal, right? All the tools in your belt. So you have the call recording here, which just gives you a list of everything that's been recorded. It's separate from call history because it's not going to give you the option to do all of the additional things, the features, the functionality. But it does give you the option here to directly download the recordings, to copy them, or to remove them. Again, I don't recommend that you remove recordings, but in the scenario that you would need to, you have the option. With all of these buttons, just a quick little tip, little trick, you do have to double click each one of these. So if you only single click, it's not going to take you anywhere. I'm single clicking, and as you see, nothing is happening. So if you're using Connect and you're like, well, this isn't working, you need to double click each of the buttons. So to touch base with text messaging in this space is a little interesting, right? You have to give per CMS guidelines the option to opt out of any sort of mass text or any sort of um, marketing that you're doing that way. Please do not text people that you do not have permission to contact, as that's a no-go, as I'm sure you're aware of. But the text messaging features are actually really neat. As you can see, I've played with this in some of the texting. You can just choose a new text here. You can compose by either the contact name or mobile number and type your message here. You even have emojis just in case you need them. You can return to conversations and you can filter text messages again by name or phone number. So if you are sending out marketing to your existing book of business and you have permission to contact, you have that feature available to you. You can go through here. As you saw, we have the call history and then settings. Settings is going to be extremely important to you if you plan on using Connect in any way remotely. So the way that Connect and Office in a Box benefits you remotely, not just from the perspective of being able to utilize the functions and features, but you can actually set up call forwarding. So this number that you see in the corner here, this is your number for Office in a Box. This is the number that you would list as your office number, your contact number. I'm sure many of your clients currently have your cell phone number, but if you wanted to transition to more of a business sort of standpoint and separate your business and personal, this is a great way to do it. So this number is the number that you would give out. You could put it on marketing pieces or whatnot. And here is where you have the option to set up things like call forwarding, your voicemails, any sort of out-of-office text responders. And call forwarding is one of my favorite features. So you would click here in Settings, and then under the My Profile section, and you would turn call forwarding on. When you attempt to do that and you haven't completed all the necessary steps, it's going to give you a message saying you haven't set the destination. It wants to know where you're planning on forwarding this call to. So if I add a new destination and I type in a phone number, I can set a delay for how long it takes before it rolls to that number. I can set a timeout feature. Once I save this information, then I can turn call forwarding on. So if you're planning on leaving for the day to go run appointments or to run errands or be out of the office, all of the calls that come in to this line will actually forward to the number of your choosing, whether that's another office line, whether that's a cell phone number, however you choose to operate. You can add additional destinations or you can delete destinations, which is what I'm going to do now, and then it automatically turns call forwarding off. You have the ability as well to set up voicemail. You can update information, change your voicemail greeting here. Again, if you're planning on using this as any sort of business line, which I would recommend, you can change the voicemail greeting, make sure that you have it there, and you can create a PIN for accessing that voicemail when you would like. Notifications. This is a little more detailed, a little bit more in depth. If you'd like, you can set things like ringtones for specific types of phone calls, or there are some really funny ones in here actually. As I was digging through here, someone decided to add baby shark. So there's your laugh for your Thursday morning. So you have an out-of-office text responder, so you can have an out-of-office response there. So if you turn that on and you indicate an out-of-office message, it will automatically text that to the number that you're indicating, and you can update additional information there. You can also have a text signature. That's probably the most important information here. You have profile information that if you'd like to update with phone numbers or transferring calls to external devices, I don't recommend you play with that unless you really just want to get into the weeds of how the back end of this works. If you have questions around that, please feel free to reach out directly. Some of my favorite options here is you have conference calls and screen shares and video calling. The screen share works exactly the way that the screen share that I'm currently using works. You double click here, you have a conference room name. You can copy this to a clipboard and send out the link to the people that you're looking to have screen share with. You can record those screen shares. I'm not going to do this part here because I'm already in a screen share, so it would create a little bit of conflict, and I'd rather not. But it's really easy to start the screen share. It'll ask you which screens you'd like to share, and then we'll let you go from there. So faxing, a lot of you do faxing, e-faxing. Maybe you have an account set up elsewhere. You don't have to have that. With Office in a Box and Connect, you have this built in. So it's really easy. When you log in, you just go to the user fax, and you would hit this button, which is similar on the agency fax. You could use either, and set up a fax account. Once you set up a fax account, it's going to pull over the phone number that you're already utilizing. You have an email to fax address, so you can actually send faxes via your email through this address. You can send a fax directly from here, select files to fax. You can use a cover page and you have samples, or you can create your own. So there's a lot of good functionalities in this system as well. It would give you a list of everything you faxed, just like any other e-fax system would. So you would have record of everything that you faxed. And then if you're using this through email, it's really simple. So you would send it to the 10-digit fax number. The subject would be the fax number, which would show as the sending fax number, and then you can just add attachments. So the attachments to the email would be the actual fax that is sent. So if you've used any sort of e-faxing like this, you're probably familiar, but I wanted to give you a brief overview of that. Store and share is a great feature. This is a great way, guys, to obtain documents from your clients in a secure fashion. A lot of you in some of my previous webinars, I haven't really had the opportunity to go over this, but this is one of my favorite features. So you can add folders here. So I added client docs this morning, as you can see. You can request files from your clients. So if they're utilizing email or have a way to access a link, you can create a link. Once they create the link here, you can indicate what folder you want it to go into, and then security. So it would require the recipients to enter their name and email address in order to access the link, so it creates that secure avenue there. Then they can add files to that folder specifically for you. So, if you're looking for income verification documents, or, I know I've spoken with several of you regarding obtaining additional, personal identifiable information or personal health information, you can do this securely through here. So once that happens, that information would go into these files. You can also share files this way and just upload files directly to the system. This is, in my opinion, one of the most underutilized aspects of Connect. It's a really good way to obtain documentation or to send documentation in a secure manner. So that's definitely a big piece. We've talked about text messaging. There's also the video call, so video conferencing. So if you're looking to interact with someone in a video manner, similar to some of the many programs that are already out there, you could start a video call here. Again, you have the option to record all of these. So nothing you do, if you wish, would go undocumented And from a compliance standpoint, guys, and I know I tend to focus a lot on this, but that's the goal, right? The goal is to be able to present and do what you need to do from a telephonic perspective, and otherwise manage your book of business in a way that, if you ever receive questions from a carrier or CMS, which hopefully you never do, you have the data to back up what you say you're doing. So that's sort of a brief overview. I could go into a little bit of additional detail here with conference calls. You can start a conference here. You can schedule events and create rooms here with what your dial-in number would be, which all the numbers are very similar to what you currently have. You can send out recordings. You can lock all of these so you can make sure that only the people that you wish to be in can get in. And this is where this system can really partner well with MyMFG and your CRM components here. Utilize this when you're using your report functionality, right? So if you're pulling production reports, or you're looking up client information and you're wanting to have conversations around those that are turning 65, or adding documentation for your ACA enrollments. This is a very valuable tool to utilize. I want to talk to you about how you access Connect if you don't already have it, right? So let's talk about some of the nitty-gritty of what you do. If you don't currently have Connect or Office in the Box, there's a couple ways to do this, right? There's some qualifications. So if you're an all-in agent and have at least 50 active policies on our books, Connect is free of charge. All right, now I'm going to say that again because I want to make sure you understand how the all-in program plays into this. If you are an all-in agent and have at least 50 active policies on the books, Connect is free of charge. Otherwise, the cost is $20 a month, okay? $20 a month, which will be debited from the bank account that we're currently paying commissions to on or shortly after the 15th of the month, right? So one more time, just want to make sure that you know how this works. So cost is $20 a month, debited from the bank account you're currently paying commissions to on or shortly after the 15th of each month. To request Connect, if you're looking to add Connect, you can email Brian Mills at bmills@messerfinancial.com. All right. If you bmills@messerfinancial.com. If you have questions regarding that, please feel free to reach out to me. If you are wondering if you are all in, if you do not know what that means, or you have additional questions about your all-in status, please email mfgmarketing@messerfinancial.com, mfgmarketing@messerfinancial.com. They can determine whether or not you qualify to receive the Office in the Box Connect piece at no charge. Guys, this system is going to be pivotal for your business, not just now, but moving forward as the scenery in our industry continues to evolve and change. So definitely want to make sure that you understand how that works. I have one more question for you, one more poll question, and that's whether or not you have actually currently using Office in a Box. Are you using Office in a Box currently? I want to know. And then once we get the answers to this, I'm going to answer some questions, because it seems like you have a few, which I hope you guys are doing well. Everyone doing well? This is this functionality has been really integral to the way that I've seen many of our agents do business. It's been really nice to be able to put all of your kind of administrative functions in one place, right? This takes care of marketing pieces as well as just simple things like if you have to fax in an application, you have the option here. You also have just the option to reach out and connect to your client base in a way that you could, see them through video calls or just the conference calls. Managing your business more effectively through MyMFG with the CRM portion is really important here. All right, so I think everybody has answered the poll. So I'm going to take a look at questions really quickly. So I've got a couple of questions around carriers doing, webinars. I'm by the way, just to touch base, I know there are a lot of questions around just the dynamic of what's going on right now. I'm going to try really hard to kind of narrow the focus here because with telephonic sales and the way everything's going in the industry right now, there are a lot of questions that are still outstanding that CMS and carriers are trying to assess and make decisions on. So I will answer to the best of my ability. And as additional details continue to unfold, we can kind of go from there. One thing I didn't touch a whole lot on is scopes. If you're doing telephonic enrollments through MyMFG, obviously you want to complete a scope prior to getting into the details of doing a needs analysis and conversation. But the scope, I would recommend that you complete a scope in one of two ways. So you could send a scope via this share file to your client and have them return it in the same manner, a generic scope. You could email a scope if you would prefer to do such a thing, or you could complete one of the scopes that are available telephonically through the carriers. If you get that scope number, you can actually add that number at the end of the application on MyMFG, and that number will then tie into the application and you will be set there. So that's the way that I would recommend doing that. I've got a couple questions on voice recording. Yes, it is required if you're going to do applications telephonically through MyMFG. That has been a determination of the carriers. That's not us. The carriers want to know that. And guys, honestly, even if you have the option to do it another way, I wouldn't recommend it because that protection is there for you as much as it is anyone else. If you end up with any sort of allegation, the onus is on you. It's on you to prove that you did things correctly and compliantly. So if you have the recording to back that up, you are doing yourself a favor. Is this only to be used for Medicare sales? No, you can use Connect however you see fit to utilize it in your business. I see many opportunities to use this in ways that would benefit you on multi sides of the business. Importing the existing numbers is not something that's on the horizon at this moment. It's something we've kind of talked about, and it may be an option in the future, but that is not something we're working with right now. Let's see. How many PCs can one account use? I mean, you can log into this. You can log into this to this from a multitude of computers. But as MyMFG works, you're really only supposed to utilize it in one location. You can't have multiple iterations of logins to MyMFG, so I would recommend that you only do this for one. I've had a few people ask me about the application process. The application process through MyMFG telephonically for the carriers that allow it is exactly the same. The only thing that you would do differently is the scope process. The scope process is the only difference. Is you want to ensure that you complete the scope prior to completing the needs analysis and the enrollment. From if you've utilized MyMFG, which all of you guys are MyMFG users, the quote, the enroll portion works exactly identically. You're just recording your phone call. The requirement is that you only record the enrollment portion. I recommend that you record the needs analysis because generally speaking, that is where you have the fallout from clients who claim that they didn't understand something in the summary of benefits. Your requirements from a telephonic standpoint are that you provide the documentation for the enrollment so that they have, the summary of benefits, that they have access to all of the details surrounding the plan, before you would enroll them. Let's see. Let's see. Thank you guys for your questions. I had a couple of questions asking about the SEP. It's not, it's basically like an OEP extension. You can't reach out to, you can't market to new clients. You can only really reach out and talk to your existing client base. So if they reach out, they need to do something, they can reach out to you and you can help them. All right, so let's see. Again, most of the questions I'm seeing here are on scope of appointment and sequence to record a conversation. I've had a couple people ask me to show you how you record again. So here, guys, you can either utilize the dial pad or type the number. If you've called it recently, it'll give you that option. Once you call and the person who is on the other line answers the phone, there's a record option here. Start recording. Once you start that recording, everything you say is recorded. So remember to make sure that you let your clients know that they are being recorded and that they agree to be recorded. If you're having these conversations telephonically, I definitely recommend that if you have questions on the application that you ask yes and no types of questions, where they have to give you specific answers, especially if you're ever asked for it. The paying for the account, I'm going to go back over this because I've had this question, and then I think we'll wrap up shortly after that. So I'm going to go back over this. If you are an all-in agent and you have at least 50 active policies on the books, Connect is free of charge. Otherwise, the cost is $20 a month, which will be debited from the bank account that we currently have on file for you on or shortly after the 15th of each month. So if you want to request Connect, you email Brian Mills at bmills@messerfinancial.com, BMILLS@messerfinancial.com. To determine whether or not you have an all-in status, you would email mfgmarketing@messerfinancial.com. Again, guys, this is just a brief refresher course. There are lots of, questions around, what's going on in the industry and how things are kind of being affected that way. Telephonically, remember, through my MFG, you can enroll Aetna Coventry, Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina, if you currently have the contract, HTA, and Humana. If you have additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us directly. You can reach out to your contacts at the carriers if you have questions about their specific enrollment designations. I know I've seen lots of emails come out from the carriers as well as webinars for how you would complete compliant sales telephonically. The reason I'm not digging into all of that right now is because every single carrier is handling this differently. So we could spend hours talking about the nuances of how each carrier wants this done. If you have specific questions for a specific carrier, feel free to reach out. I just want to make sure, I've had some questions around phone scripts. Guys, most of the carriers aren't looking for a specific scripted conversation. It's more that you're covering everything. So make sure that you're covering all of your bases, that you're covering, the summary of benefits, that you're covering prescriptions, that you're doing a compliant sales presentation, which you guys, I know you're doing it anyway. So all you have to do is record that to make sure you're covering all your bases, and you're good. Again, if you have additional questions, feel free to reach out. I'm excited to have you guys using Connect. We can always go through this additionally, and so you can learn the various features like faxing and store and share. If you're utilizing these particular features and you have questions about how they work after this, please feel free to give us a call. We look forward to speaking with you soon. And again, as the climate continues to evolve, we will have additional updates. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.